Two brothers, a mansion in Beverly Hills, a family that from the outside had everything: wealth, success, status. Their father was a powerful executive earning around $500,000 a year, living a life most people only dream of. But on the night of August 20th, 1989, that perfect image shattered. José and Kitty Menendez were found inside their home, shot multiple times in a scene so brutal it shocked even experienced investigators. At first, their sons claimed it was a mob hit. Then, the story changed. So what really happened inside that house, and why did they do it? Before we continue, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and let's dive into. José Menendez didn't just build a career, he built an image. Born in Cuba and moving to the United States as a teenager, he worked his way up to become a powerful figure in the entertainment industry. By 1989, he was the CEO of a major company and earning around $500,000 a year. That success showed in everything around him. The family lived in a Beverly Hills mansion, surrounded by luxury, private schools, and constant expectations to succeed. Kitty Menendez, once a teacher, had left her career to focus entirely on the home. But behind that role, there were signs of emotional instability and a difficult past of her own. Inside the house, Joss was known for strict control. Success wasn't optional, it was demanded. Every detail of his sons' lives, from school to sports, was closely watched and judged. From the outside, it looked like a perfect American success story. But inside, pressure kept building, and whatever was happening behind closed doors was slowly shaping everything that came next. Because when a family is built on pressure and control, it doesn't break all at once. It cracks quietly first. Lyle and Erik Menendez grew up with advantages most people never see: private education, luxury homes, and opportunities that seemed endless. But as they got older, cracks started to show in very different ways. Lyle, the older brother, made it to Princeton University in 1987. But things didn't go as planned. He was placed on academic probation for poor grades and eventually suspended for plagiarism. His behaviour also raised concerns. Reports described incidents where he damaged property and struggled to follow rules. Erik's path looked more focused, at least on the surface. He showed real talent in tennis, reaching a national ranking of 44th in the United States as a junior player. But even with that success, there were signs of deeper issues. In 1988, both brothers were involved in a series of burglaries in their own neighborhood, stealing more than $100,000 in cash and jewelry. Around the same time, Erik co-wrote a screenplay about a wealthy young man who kills his parents for inheritance. It didn't seem real back then, just a story. But sometimes, the line between imagination and reality isn't as clear as it looks. On the evening of August 20th, 1989, everything changed inside the Menendez home. José and Kitty were sitting in the den watching a movie together, unaware of what was about to happen. Lyle and Erik entered the room carrying loaded shotguns. What followed was fast, loud, and devastating. Joss was shot 6 times, including a fatal shot to the back of his head. Kitty tried to escape. She was shot multiple times as she moved, eventually collapsing on the floor. Even then, the attack didn't stop. She was shot a total of 10 times. At one point, the shooting paused. Lyle stepped out to reload while Erik handed him more ammunition. Then they went back in and continued. The room was left in chaos. The level of force used made it one of the most shocking scenes many had ever seen. And yet, after it was over, there was no immediate escape, no panic-driven run. Because what they did next made the story even harder to believe. After the shootings, the brothers didn't leave right away. They stayed inside the house for a few minutes, waiting, almost expecting someone to show up after all the noise. But no one came. So they moved quickly. The shotguns were taken and later buried along Mulholland Drive. Their blood-stained clothes were disposed of. Then they tried to build a story. They even went to a movie theatre, planning to use ticket stubs as proof they weren't home. But when they realised the tickets were time-stamped, they abandoned that idea. Later that night, after returning home and seeing no police, Lyle made the call. His voice was shaking as he said,
Beverly Hills emergency.
Yes, police.
What's the problem? What's the problem? What's the problem?
I'm sorry, my parents.
Pardon me? What? Who? Are they still there?
Yeah.
The people...
No. Man, too.
Were they...
Yes.
Erik could be heard in the background, crying and screaming. When officers arrived, both brothers ran toward them, acting shocked and overwhelmed. They claimed they had just discovered the scene and suggested it might be business-related, hinting at a possible mob hit. At that moment, their story seemed believable. But sometimes it's not what people say, it's what they do next that reveals everything. In the months after the murders, life didn't slow down for Lyle and Erik. If anything, it sped up. And not in a quiet way. They began spending heavily. In total, around $700,000 was used on luxury items, travel, and personal interests. Lyle bought 3 Rolex watches and even purchased a restaurant in Princeton, New Jersey. He also drove a Porsche Carrera. Erik hired a full-time tennis coach and competed in tournaments overseas. Instead of staying in the Beverly Hills mansion, they chose to live in separate luxury condos in Marina del Rey. They traveled to places like the Caribbean and London, dined at expensive restaurants, and continued living a high-end lifestyle. Most of this money came from a $650,000 life insurance payout. To some people, it didn't seem unusual. They had always lived with money. But the timing felt off, and slowly, attention started to shift. Because when the story doesn't match the behavior, people start asking questions. For months, nothing concrete tied the brothers to the crime. The story held until something private became public. Erik had been speaking to his psychologist, José Menendez. During those sessions, he admitted what really happened. Not in public, not to police, but behind closed doors. Soon after, Lyle joined one of those sessions and confirmed the same story. The conversations didn't just stay between them, they were recorded. Then, things took another turn. Oziel shared details of those sessions with his mistress, Judalon Smith. After a fallout between them, she went to the authorities and revealed everything. That moment changed the direction of the case completely. Those recordings became a key piece of evidence. What started as a mystery now had a very different focus. In March 1990, Lyle was arrested outside the Beverly Hills home. Just days later, Erik returned from Israel and turned himself in. The story they told the world was no longer holding up. But even with a confession, the biggest question was still waiting to be answered. When the case reached court, the story changed again. This time, the brothers didn't deny what happened. Instead, they explained why. Their defense claimed they had lived through years of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse inside their home. They said the fear had built over time, and on that night, they believed their lives were in danger. They described strict control, violence, and threats that kept them silent for years. According to them, the shootings were not planned for money, but driven by fear. But the prosecution told a very different story. They argued the killings were planned in advance. The brothers had purchased shotguns days before the incident, and evidence showed they had discussed the plan beforehand. There was also the question of motive. Their father's estate was estimated at around $14 million, and the prosecution believed that played a major role. The first trial didn't end with a clear answer. The jury couldn't agree, leading to a mistrial. Two sides, two completely different versions of the same night. And when the truth splits in two, the final decision becomes even more complicated. The second trial began in 1995, but this time, things were different. The defense had fewer options and much of the earlier testimony was limited. The focus shifted more toward the actions themselves, the planning, the weapons, and everything that happened before and after that night. In 1996, the jury reached a decision. Both Lyle and Erik were found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder, along with conspiracy to commit murder. The sentence was severe: life in prison without the possibility of parole. Years passed, but the case didn't disappear. Appeals were filed again and again, but they were denied. Then, decades later, something changed. In May 2025, a judge resentenced both brothers to 50 years to life, making them eligible for parole. But even that didn't bring freedom. In August 2025, both were denied parole due to concerns about behaviour and trust. Decades later, this case still feels unsettled in a different way, not because of what happened, but because of how people see it. Two brothers who grew up with everything, now spending years behind bars, still trying to explain their actions in a way the world can accept. Some believe their story, others don't. And that divide hasn't gone away. So what do you think? Was this fear that went too far, or a decision made long before that night? And if this happened today, would the outcome be different? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.